Hello and welcome to another LSB film podcast with me, your host Chris with a K. I hope everyone's well. My guest today is Colin Gibbons, and one of the most thought-provoking conversations that you'll hear. From bonded slaves to birth certificates and corporate identity to Admiralty Law, spirituality, consciousness, symbolism, and the hidden meanings behind words. Whether you see it as philosophy, allegory, research, or pure speculation. This episode, thanks to Colin, changes conventional thinking and asks a more simple yet profound question. Are we living as free individuals or as participants in a system that we just barely understand? Prepare yourself for a journey through law, etymology, the banking system, religion, symbolism, and the nature of reality. Let's get into this. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Are you concerned about all this corruption being rebranded as conspiracy theory? Well, don't you worry. Sit back and relax and join in the conversation with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
Welcome, Colin. It's great to see you. And a lot to unpack. So let's be going.
Well, I sent you an email not so long back called Bonded Slaves, and there was 4 points to ponder, and then expanding those points out, I managed to get 11 points with regard how the systems of law may work interdimensional. Because I'm working on a thesis, and it seems to be bearing correct so far that administrative law is second dimensional because it is written on a flat sheet of paper with four corners. Commercial law is lower third dimensional, isn't so much you've got a third dimensional object you can buy and sell. And then there's military law, which is effectively a third dimensional object which is animate, such as the human body. Now, animals and trees might fit into that, but they're in the lower echelon of the upper third dimension. And then you can go into fourth dimensional law, which is ecclesiastical law, which is the law of the churches. And then I'm thinking we've got fifth dimensional law, which is Admiralty Law, which is the law of the stars. So your star would therefore be your spirit form the soul connects to into your body through the pineal gland, which is integrated into brain architecture, which is basically what the Book of Revelation describes. So the seven churches are the seven chakras of your physical body. And then you go up into celestial navigation, which is the navigation through the planets. The planets are the points within the tree of life. And then you go into galactic sort of navigation, which is the navigation of God's actual mind. An interesting galactic and Gaul and Galicia, which is part of Spain, is all sort of connected etymologically as well. So there's sort of all sorts of crazy carry on regarding words, etymological roots of words, what words mean, why they mean what they mean, and systems of law. Possibly the most important word might be the word Britain itself, which is derived from the word Brythonic, which means to be above. So if we are above all this nonsense on earth, then that must mean we are in the heavens, or at the very least in the sky. Which would make us Abrahamic sky gods, as described in the Bible, with Abraham being the father and our own souls being the sons of Abraham. Yeah,
I heard that British or Britain was a word that kind of represented the word slave.
Well, the Britons have been enslaved, but how and why is what I've been attempting to unpick, and this is the way I'm going about it. So I might be right, I might be wrong. I have a feeling most of what I've done is in the main correct, although there will be inaccuracies in my work, and I'll gladly accept any comments supporting why I'm incorrect and pointing the way to correcting my mistakes. Because there's a big difference between commenting, and a lot of people who say, "Oh no, you're wrong," but then they can't give reason as to why you're wrong.
If you're going to comment, give some constructive criticism.
Well, constructive criticism can be, it can be negative positively, or just. It
depends how you interpret it.
Yeah, well, it depends how it's offered more than anything. So basically, I've been looking at Crown Corporation and what Crown Corporation actually protects. And Crown Corporation protects the property of God. So if God created the heavens and the earth, that means God created his own mind and he created the body, as in the earth, that he carries himself about in within the third dimension. So if you're stood on Mother Earth, which we all are apparently bodily, then those bodies are our vessels, and our vessels ought to be under Admiralty Law. And therefore, I'm coming to the conclusion, although I haven't managed to definitively prove it yet, that Admiralty Law is the law of the land, as in where the angel of the Lord lands. So if you're looking into the Bible, Lord God is Saturn, but God the Creator is Neptune, based on the Kabbalistic tree of life. So if you're looking at your 6 chakras of your physical body, the 6th chakra, counting up from the root, which is Reuben, red, goes orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, which is dark blue, and then ultraviolet is above your head. That's crown. So the 6th one is your third eye, which is blue, which is tribe of Dan on your flags.
Can I ask? Can I just quickly?
Black above it.
Can I ask you a question? Because there's a lot of. I feel really confused when it comes to things like this, because we've all been told like 666 is bad. It's a demon number, but really 666 is us, isn't it? Because it's the elements.
Yeah.
And so, would you say everything's in that regard is an inversion as well?
Of course it is, and it's. You see, a friend of mine, Thomas Sheridan, he's very anti-Bible, and I think he's missing a trick, because I think the Bible's possibly the greatest occult work that's available to us. And he's anti-Bible because of the manipulation of the message of the Bible by whoever has taken over the Abrahamic Church. So the 3 Abrahamic churches is Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Well, if you look at Christianity as second dimensional, then that's administrative law. Roman Catholicism is the Roman Western system of administrative law. And then you've got the Islamics, which are basically the military, which is the soldiers on earth. And then you've got the Judaism, which is the spiritual aspect, or the ecclesiastic law. But above that, you've got Saturnalian law, which is the law of man, above the law of what's going on, because man is made in the image of God. Well, nobody knows what God looks like unless you bring it down, in which case your own father is your God. But I know what my dad looks like, and I look somewhat like my dad. Obviously, I look something like my mother's side of the family as well. So if you're working in like a structure of layers of interdimensionality, you've got source, which is a single point, and then you've got a layer, which is flat paper, flat earth, square of the earth, which is Vitruvian man. And then you've got your body stood upright, which is solid. So, I could have a solid object. I don't know what, a pair of scissors, that's a solid object. Well, that's third dimensional. Well, the scissors are lower third dimension. They don't do anything unless somebody picks them up. Whereas my body's third dimensional, and here it is doing things because I control it. I have possession of this body.
Do you think that works very similar?
But man has possession of my mind, and then my mind is a possession of God, and it just keeps going up in dimensions.
I was going to say, do you think that works on a consciousness level as well? Because trees have consciousness, we have consciousness, cats have consciousness.
What I'm suggesting is, if we get into our higher minds rather than thinking that we're all administrators and actually thinking of ourselves as bits of paper, because this document has a title and it's Bonded Slaves. It's got it written there. That's the title of this bond.
With the Masonic M.
Oh, fuck's sake.
What was that for?
Don't get me started on masonry. Oh, fucking hell. Oh, 33 is an evil number.
See, I like 33. I see 33 all the time.
33 is a brilliant number. If you get rid of all 33 bones in your spine, you have no spine.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about masonry. Jacob's ladder is the masonry you climb from your root chakra into your mind and then into your higher mind. You can't get to your higher mind without passing the third eye. And that's brain architecture. People can't get the fucking stupid heads around it because they've been so brainwashed to think, 33 masons. Fuck's sake.
No, but see, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you.
The 34th one's your skull.
Yeah. And when you practice the sacred secretion, you learn all this. It's about like the chakras, and you're
Yeah,
pushing that energy up towards the 33 vertebrae, which is where Christ died at the age of 33. He died in Calvary, which is Latin for skull. It's all,
yeah.
yeah.
It's all connected, but you see, you get this perversion of interpretation,
It's
and
because it's
people
because
don't
the
see
elites
past
know how
it.
to use it and they've hidden it.
Yeah,
And so now it's become evil, but it's not evil. It's just that the universal consciousness, if you like, it doesn't have a right or a wrong, a good or a bad. It
no,
just
no,
does. It just is. And it's down to us and our interpretation and our free will as to how that gets used.
yeah,
Yeah.
precisely.
Right.
So what
Okay.
I'm saying is, if you're getting into administrative law, because we've all been dragged down into the administrative realm, well, does the king perform his own administration? The administration of the City of London is to protect the king's property. Well, if you look at a birth certificate, the king's name is under the father.
Now, before we get back into our show, a quick word from our sponsors. If you've ever had that unexpected knock at the door from police, a visit from bailiffs, or received a legal threat without warning, you'll know just how quickly confusion and fear can set in, and that's where Willoughby Genius Mark II comes in. Built on more than 750,000 legal entries and across 50 plus countries, it provides immediate legal guidance when you need answers fast. No waiting for appointments, no eye-watering hourly fees. Just direct access to the relevant legal information right when you need it. It helps to verify information, explains your options, guides you through legal situations with clarity and precision. Legal technology is evolving rapidly, and those who understand it will be better equipped. Now, before we jump back into the show, click in the link below, use LSB Pro for £5 off of your first month's premium. Right, let's get back into it.
So you have the name of father, name of child, who's the king, name of mother. So it goes father, king, mother. Now, you see, then you're getting into all this sexism nonsense, like I'm a man, I'm a woman. Right. You've got to differentiate. If man is in the mind of God, then woman is the body on the earth. Does that make sense? So your mind can either be the mind of man masculine or the mind of man feminine, because that's a gerundive term.
Okay, I was thinking, couldn't man and woman fall under just man, wouldn't it?
No, because on earth, bodily, physically, it's male and female. Now you see, the word male in Latin is male, and male means evil, and evil is live spelt backwards. So you can either live in your mind or you can be evil on earth through being male. And then there's female, which is Fe, iron, which is Roman law. But that's getting proper into Kabbalism. So basically, my 4 points is point number one: all names belong to the City of London, Charles III's Lord Liege of City of London, which means he's the Lord that acts on behalf of the King. Well, who's the King of England then?
Not my king. We've got a king of
Are
the.
you sure about that?
We've got a king of the.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I look at him as the king of the United Kingdom. He's a king of the corporation. He's not the king of the land, the sovereign.
He's Rex. He's Rex, which is a dog, isn't it? And the dog star is Sirius, right? Think about John McEnroe. You cannot be Sirius, right? So if he's Lord Liege of the City of London and he's the dog, and you throw the bone and he fetches it, who's God? Who's the king? Because the king is God's servant. So if you are a man and you're in heaven and you're the king of heaven and you're under God, that makes you Christ, right? So he serves Christ.
Okay.
So he serves us because the names that belong to the City of London were given to us on the day we birthed on earth from our mother's waters, which are the waters below, rather than the waters above, which is heaven.
Okay.
So if I'm given a corporation in which my wealth is placed, and we know that they harvest the placenta and claim the placenta, well, the chakras that the placenta use as the heart chakra, the solar plexus chakra, and the sacral chakra, which means we can't reach God, or can't reach the God of the earth without giving sacrament, which is sacrifice. So, and your sacred place is your mind, which is your third eye. So you can't reach source, which is root chakra. Does
Okay.
that make sense? Now, Charlie
Yeah.
Boy has got a picture of him looking like the devil. When you cut it in half, turn it around and turn it
Oh,
upside down,
that's
it
the
looks like
Baphomet.
Baphomet the devil.
Yeah.
Right. So he's the big red devil with a monarch butterfly on his shoulder. Right. So if he's Reuben, then Reuben loses his birthright. Well, when Reuben loses his birthright, because everything is owned by the City of London under corporation, because everything has been corporatized, as in everything's dead, and then everything that's been corporatized has been tokenized and fractionalized through the financial system of the banks, then we know the cost of everything. But knowing the cost of everything is not the value of everything. And that's where things are going wrong at the moment. So what I'm suggesting is when Charlie Boy dies, then because he is also the father of the church,
He
because
was
he's the
supposed to have
governor of the
died last
Church of
month.
England, well, whatever. But what you've got to look at is allegorical representation. So again, this is a stupid argument because people get bogged down with, oh, he died there, he died then, and it's a robot, it's a hologram, it's a fucking man in a mask. Right. Well, forget all that shit, right? Whatever they're putting up there in front of the television cameras, what does it represent? Why does it represent that? That's all you've got to look at because that's the game we're playing, right? Rather than getting bogged down in the minutiae detail of who he is, what he is, where he is, that he is, right? What does it represent, right? It's like a £5 note. What does that represent? It represents £5. £5 of what? You know, it doesn't represent anything unless you choose to put a value on something financially. This is where people are getting lost. They're missing the symbolic and trying to sort of say, well, whatever. A photograph of me is a photograph of me. It represents me, but it is not me. I'm looking at a picture of you. It's an animated picture, but it's not actually the animated picture that's actually your third dimensional construct known as your body. So, as far as I'm concerned, the image I'm looking at on the screen now is symbolic of you.
That's a good way of putting it.
Your voice is transposed. You're sat in Thetford chatting away, and I'm up here in Cumbria, like, a couple of 100 miles away, and it's like we're in the same room. And that's through an artificial fourth dimension. It's artificial telepathy that we're using, but people can't get their heads around that. And it's through crystalline technology. And people say, well, crystals don't harvest magic. Well, what the fucking hell's computing technology if it's not bloody magic? It's absolute magic, really, if you think about it. So anyway, yeah. So all corporations are registered at Dun and Bradstreet in New York. New York is part of the United States under Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is the head of that jurisdiction. So he is in charge of the corporate realm. All the people of God are part of the Catholic Church. Well, if you're getting into electric terms, you've got to know what the difference between an anode and a cathode is, right? Which discharges and which charges. And are we using alternating current or direct current? If we are using direct current, which way is it traveling? So current and currency is the same etymological root. So if everything's been given a value physically, so like, this pencil, how much does a pencil cost? Well, it doesn't matter how much it costs. What's its value as a marking instrument when you want to draw a picture or write something? So this is, again, where people are getting so wrapped up in going down the wrong avenue for the wrong reason. There's all sorts of avenues, but you've got to pick your direction for a reason. So you can't go down an administrative route physically, which is what the police are doing at the moment, because they're coming along and they're quoting civil statutes of people who don't work for the civil service as though they should be following a civil service. Well, you're not working for the administration, and who's given the police agency to make that complaint?
Isn't that because we're all deemed civilians, though? Civilians.
Well, they might deem us civilians, but what is a civilian? You can't be a civilian unless you're in a militaristic society. If you militarize a society, you've got to then split it into the civil administration of the funding of the military vessels. Well, what's your military vessel? Well, that's upper third dimensional Islamic law, which is your corporeal vessel. Well, your corporeal vessel is where your soul lands on earth and is subject to Admiralty Law as a royal vessel. So what I'm saying is the merchantmen, which is the City of London, are using corporate law to enforce merchant policies which are commercial, as in House of Commons is common commercial code, to administrate commercial titles that should supply money to royal vessels, and instead they're impounding royal vessels and extracting the wealth from the king, not the other way about, because the Bank of England's job is to supply funds to the king. Well, who's the king? If Charles is Lord Liege of the City of London, guess what? He works for the king because he's second dimension, because he's administrative. Third dimension, you're royal. Fourth dimension, you're spiritual. So you're back under the church.
I was going to say, it's a lot of people would say it's not of this world.
Well, no, it isn't. Well, where are actually you? I mean, I know where your body is. It's in Thetford.
Or is it?
My body's here.
Yes.
Or is it? Well, I don't know. You told me that, so I'm going to take you on trust. And my body's up here in, just south of Penrith in Cumbria. But where is my mind? My mind can be anywhere I wish to place it. Doesn't mean to say my body's going to follow it.
Very true. Yeah. So how long have you been working on this bit?
Hey, what, this lot?
Yeah.
Oh, for ages. I'm not that clever. Anyway, so.
I want to hear this joke now.
Oh, go on. Yeah, well, what is it? You can beat an egg, but you can't beat a good wank, you see. Where's your mind taking you? Right?
Oh, dear. Yeah.
But you see, nice. Latin for egg is over, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know, right? Is it? I say that I know it, but I don't.
And what's an ovary? Right? It's where the eggs come from. Right? Do I need to go on? You can use your imagine, guess the rest. Okay, beat an egg, but you can't beat a good wank. Your mind can take you anywhere you want to go. So there you go. It's a crap joke, but it's illustrative of where your mind goes to. So anybody who don't like crude jokes, tough shit. Yeah. So the UK bankrupted the City of London, and shortly after, Charlie Boy was made king. Right? Or they're telling us he's king, but that's a lie, because he's actually Rex, because it's part of the Roman administration, which is paganistic Irish law. Then last year, J.D. Vance captured the Vatican via bankruptcy proceedings, and this made Trump the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. So actually, he is now pouncing around as though he's the King of England in charge of the Catholic Church, but no King of England can be a Catholic, because the King of England is the anointed one. So you're into anodes and cathodes, and which way is the current flowing, or which way is the money flowing to the vessel? So which vessel are we talking about? Is it the paper vessel, because that's where it's all held on paper records, or these days it's on computers, which are doing the same job? And which vessel is the money flowing to? So is the money coming through in the computer system in the banking cartels to the royal vessels, which are our bodies, to pay for us? Now, like I was saying earlier about the placenta performs the service for the unborn of the lungs, the liver, and the kidneys. So the lungs is air, because that's what you breathe. The kidneys is your wastewater system, effectively, because it filters the blood. And then the liver takes the nutrients from your solid food that you eat and converts that to energy. So that's basically your land, air, and water. They've taken half of that off you. And that is the instrument through the birth certificate, which is the bond lodged at the Bank of England under the City of London, that is all financial bonds are created from, under the bond market, which is why UK pounds are known as gilts, because they're gilt edged. We say then you're into aura and aurum, aurum being gold and argentum being silver. So your golden aura shines. Well, the word argent means to shine, and so your aura shines. So you're either dull or bright personality. So you've got to get that round your head as well. But that's a fourth dimensional concept coming from your own spirit, which is fifth dimensional concept under God, which must therefore be sixth. So that comes down into your brain, which is a third dimensional part of your body, and it's in the the pineal gland, third eye chakra. So anyway, yeah. So the United States is basically a mercantile corporation, and it was set up by the British royal family originally, and was basically given away by Charles's grandfather, George III, which makes Charles's speech in Washington the other week very interesting if you listen to what he says about speaking French and German and the etymological roots of the two versions of the word germain. So you've got germain, which can mean subject to, and germain, which means brotherhood. So you can go and look those words up in your dictionaries, folks. Yeah. So the United States Corporation is owned by the British royal family, effectively, which means Trump does as he's told by the Lord Liege of the City of London. Well, he doesn't really, does he? Because if he's the chief civil servant and Trump's the King of England, but the King of England has to do what God tells him. Well, who's God? Who ministers to God? Well, that'd be the governor of the Church of England, which is Charles. So interestingly, Charles is doing two jobs. So
I thought Charles had converted to Islam.
Well, maybe he has, but again, you see what you're listening to and why you're listening to it, and how you interpreting the evidence that's shown to you. Does that make sense as well? You're very confused, Christopher.
I am a little bit confused.
So when the United States corporation is fully bankrupted by the war with Iran, or Persia, as you might want to call it, all of the private corporation's debts will have to be repaid to the original shareholders of the Bank of England via all the private banks under the auspices of the central banks through currency exchange. So if your original bond, which is your birth certificate, which is what they've originally derived all the world's currency from, that means the dollar will be completely worthless and the British pound is worth more than you can ever imagine. It will be worth its weight in gold, which is why they weigh the placenta when you're born. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I knew about that.
Which is also why United Kingdom bonds are called gilts. Now, I'm saying the United Kingdom's known as the United Kingdom because it's the United Kingdoms of heaven and earth. So you become a true Brit, as in above the earth, which is back to the etymological root of the word Brythonic. So again, there's within the sort of community, there's far too much emphasis on administrative law without looking at the spiritual aspect of where all this money's derived from. Does that make sense? Because money is stored human labor. So if you do any work whatsoever, that work has value. I mean, if you just go and do the washing up in your own house, that work has value because you've got clean cutlery and crockery. But nobody pays you to do it. You just get on and do it. If you want to pay somebody to do it, you'll struggle because nobody wants to do the washing up. It's cheaper to buy a dishwasher. Now, I work self-employed joiner. So if I go and lay a laminate floor for somebody, they pay me to do the job. But whatever I decide I'm going to charge them. So that's my labor is my money. And that's my value through my labor. Well, my body is slave to my mind, so my body is a bonded slave under the bond system of the Bank of England's birth certificates, which is how you make your money. So basically, they're paying you not just what you know, but it's how you can apply your skills through your body. But all public funds, and public means publicare, which is to steal. So everything that's been stolen from you at birth, which is your placenta, is where they're making the currency. Well, currency is just the flow or exchange of money. So it's positive charge, negative charge. Where does it flow to and from? Does that also make sense?
Yeah, that does.
So this is how we're being manipulated through the banking system, but it's how the banking system is administered, who's administering it, and on whose behalf is the account administered on. So where I'm saying there's two types of account, there's public account and private account. So if the police pull you over and give you a load of shit for a civil statute, that civil statute's got nothing to do with them because nobody's made a claim on it except for them. So why are the police, the administrators of the administrative law, making false claims, which is an uttered contract? That being a contract issued for the purposes of fraud, they then proceed to raid your private accounts which is criminal. So the police are, unfortunately, coppers, you are the single largest criminal gang on the face of this earth, and you should all be
Legalised
gibbeted for
mafia.
treason. They're scumbags, the fucking lot of them, and that's putting it mildly. Yeah. So if your birth is registered on any corporation, then it's on the ultimate jurisdiction of the Bank of England, which is part of the Church of England. Now, a church is a gathering of peoples. So if the people of God are gathered in the Church of England, and England being where the angel lands, that's the bodies, and that should be under Admiralty Law. Now, there's talk that the Old Bailey's been converted into Admiralty Law jurisdiction, which could be very interesting for all the corporations who have basically stolen everything. You see that video you did just yesterday about the shoplifter, the ex-copper breaking somebody's leg, and well, yeah, damn right. What was he doing? Attacking somebody who was taking back what's rightfully theirs in the first place? Because the corporations have stolen the earth through this system, and then they sell it back to us at interest. How fucking dare they? We have to work for stuff that we already owe. If God's our father, God created the earth, and we're God's children, that stuff belongs to us. It does not belong to some bastard in an office with a piece of paper. The piece of paper just accounts for the physical items in the store. They don't own it. They've just accounted for it. But they seem to think their accountancy is ownership. Well, it bloody well isn't. They're administrators of the property. They need to know where the property is and where it's going. That's all it is. That's why we use fiat currency, because fiat is by decree of the government. Well, who tells the government what to do? The king, because it's the king's parliament. But everybody thinks king is King Charles. It's not King Charles's parliament, but actually it is King Charles's parliament because he's the father of the Church of England. But when our father of the Church of England dies, we get all our property back. But he's already given up his birthright, hasn't he? And then he's allowed Donald Trump to steal it all through the corporations of the United States.
He's certainly one hell of a treasonous king. That's for sure.
Is he or isn't he?
Well, I would say he is. He's sold out. He's sold out to the WEF. He's sold out. He's just given the green light for the government to carry on with their ID plans, digital ID plans.
Yeah, but if you've got a bank account, you've got a digital ID, haven't you? If you've got a digital ID,
not biometrics.
Yeah, but then any account that's set up in your name can't be taken. I can't take your money out of your account because that's your digital ID. Look, I'll come along and say, well, you look now like Chris Brooks, you're far.
No, but there are lots of clever bastards that can.
Yeah.
So that's not a good thing, is it?
No, but if you've got a digital ID and it's digital money and it's just magicked up, then basically your share of the earth will be coming back to you through the publicly administered accounts. But the public administered accounts have to make sure that your share goes to you and only to you.
To me, the sovereign being, or to me, the piece of paper?
Well, it goes to you, the sovereign being, via the piece of paper, because without the piece of paper, how the bloody hell would they know where to send it?
Okay. Well, I just wanted. I was more getting at how are you recognised? Are you recognised therefore as the sovereign?
Let's say you have a big bloody tub full of apples, and everybody can have an apple, right? Well, who's had an apple? Has Chris Brooks had an apple? Let's just check the list.
Fat cunt had 6.
Right. But if you've got 600 apples and 600 people to distribute them to, then who's got a bloody wheelbarrow full of apples and who's got none? Your digital identity will sort that out. But again, people aren't looking at this in the right way. Now, somebody was, oh, you're just soft and you're making excuses for them. Well, I hate to tell you, if you've got money in a bank account, then you've got money in a bank account. That's your money. It's not theirs and it's not anybody else's. It's not for the police to come along, make stuff up, beat you up if they decide you say, go on, fuck off, don't want to speak to you corporate bastards, and then steal it anyway through a corrupt court system. Well, that's what they're doing.
As they did to you.
Same thing. All the money that's supposed to pay for the council should come from the City of London, through the Bank of England, through all the currency exchanges, job. Well, they're not doing that. They're sending begging letters out, and we're daft enough to fill them in and send them back in the main.
We
I
only
know
get
some
about
people are.
40% of the 100% that is sent to Whitehall back into the community. If that
Well, yeah, but
really.
where's the rest? Where's the rest of it gone?
Back pockets, child
Well, you see,
trafficking, drug smuggling, who knows?
well, you see, if all currency is derived from the bonds held at the City of London, all currency belongs to the people who are registered as property of God at the City of London under the birth certificate system. So it's our money that they are spending on themselves. That is known as embezzlement. That's it, right? So anybody who works as chief executive of a local council is embezzling money. They're taking money off you in form of council tax. Basically, they're stealing it off you through an uttered contract who they fooled you into bloody signing, and they'll say, well, you're daft enough to sign it. Well, if you don't sign it, they come and turf you out the house using their corporate enforcement thugs known as police, right? And if you mispronounce police, you can just say police e. Well, what's the Greek word for city? It's polis, right? So the shining city on the hill is your skull, because that's where the angel of God lands at the top of the Christmas tree, which is the dendritic nervous system. Yeah. So there you go. Right. Anyway, what was I up to? Yeah. When the father of the Catholic Church dies, then the Roman Catholic Church will finally got rid of. Hence why Charles III is a defender of all the faiths under one God, creation, not individual gods, which tends to lead to sectarianism, which we've got through everybody saying, oh, Charlie's converted to Islam. Well, if he's defender of the faiths, he's defender of all faiths. My faith, your faith, anybody that happens to be watching. And if your faith happens to be Jewish or Islam or Buddhist or whatever the bloody hell you want to call it, or you can have faith in yourself, which should probably be more appropriate. So if he defends the faith you have in yourself, then the Abrahamites can go and fuck themselves, can't they? Problem solved permanently. No more sectarianism. It's just there's as many faiths as there are people on the face of the earth.
I just think Charlie seems
again,
to be favouring.
People don't want to. It doesn't matter what he's favouring. But if he's favouring that, again, getting back to my theory of interdimensional law, right? Basically, there's a difference between your body, which is corporeal, and a piece of paper that's corporate, right? So the corporate document, your bit of paper, lists what belongs to you in trust, held in trust under the crown. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you'll have a title for your car, you've got a title deed for your house, and it's held on Crown's computer. Nobody can get into it and do it. So if it's got your name on the deed, that's your house, and the police can't throw you out. But they're misusing that system by claiming that you're a corporate entity when actually you're a corporeal entity. So if Charlie Boy is an Islamist, that means he's third dimensional, which means he's dealing with the royal vessels under Admiralty Law. So the corporatists, the police, who are Christians, right? Because it's Christian's law. The law of Christ is you write down and apportion all the wealth of your father, which is God, to the son of God's vessel. The son of God's vessel is a royal naval vessel under Admiralty Law in the third dimension. That's the third dimension upper, because you're animate. As opposed to my scissors that are inanimate. Right? So like I say, you're going up and down, backwards and forwards, up and down, backwards and forwards.
Well, where do you
can't lump, but they've tried to lump everything into the administrative realm, and it's not so. Because when I went to the court, told them to fuck off, basically, Mr. Gibbons, do as you're told. I'm not Mr. Gibbons. Mr. Gibbons, do as you're told. Do not call me Mr. Gibbons. Right? Call the police. Well, you call the police.
That's not my name either.
That's not my name either. No. So I mean, you know, there's the old joke, isn't it? You know, I mean, you know, what the bored firemen do? They go setting fire to things so they can go and put the fire out. Well, what are the police doing? They're touting for business. Right?
It's all corporation.
You say no verbally, they get aggressive, and then they hit you. And if you defend yourself, oh, you have
assaulted a police officer.
One of our officer. But you see, my title, Mister, is short for mariner. Well, I'm not mariner in the merchant navy, am I? Because I'm not doing commercial business. because I'm not an administrator. That's the royal title, and that's a royal naval title. So you're a mariner in a Royal Navy. So you're telling me the Royal Navy doesn't get to tell the merchant fleet what to do? Have a think about that one for a minute. So if you understand how the vessels are not correctly demarcated within their jurisdictional realms, and the jurisdictional realms are interdimensional in nature, as in administrative law is written on paper, therefore it has two dimensions, that way and that way, because there's nothing that way, you see. That's what it's about, right? So a book, well, that's a bad example, isn't it? I don't know. Yeah, a camera, right? It's got three dimensions. It's a solid object, right? That's third dimensional lower. It doesn't have a mind of its own. This here, right? I'm however tall, however wide across the shoulders, and that's how deep I am that way. Well, there you go. There's three dimensions in which my body exists, but it's an animated body. It's upper third dimensional in that case. But this is what people aren't getting. So your upper third dimensional animated souls that control third dimensional bodies are subject to Admiralty Law, because you stand on the bridge of your own mind. And the bridge is the pons, which is the top of the brainstem, which again is getting into brain architecture, which is a bloody lecture and a half in itself, really.
You are technically the god of your own vessel, aren't you?
Precisely. Well, your soul is the captain of the vessel, and the soul takes instruction from your lesser god, and the greater god is the god of creation that created the whole of the earth.
But we also create. We are also creators, aren't we?
Well,
Everything you see in your room started off as somebody's idea. Oh, I'm going to make a shelf.
It came out of somebody's mind.
So we are creators.
Subjective and objective realities, yeah. So anyway, what was I going on about? Yeah, the Catholic Church, right. Number 10, all titles belong to the king, and the king is King Charles. So when he dies, all of his titles will be divvied up and shared out between his children. And that's everyone on earth. So if you've got a title under a birth certificate, any bank account and any sort of land registry, vehicle registry, anything that's on a register with your name that's connected to your birth certificate belongs to you and no one else, and they cannot take it off you. And if they do, it's theft. And that's bank accounts, money, you bloody name it, anything at all, right? Now, the reason you wouldn't register a pair of scissors is because it's not worth it, because it's such a low value item. How much does a pair of scissors cost? 20 quid tops in it if you get really, really good quality ones. It's not like a house that's worth £200,000 or a car that's worth £20,000 when it's new. Who's paying for the car? Well, the corporations borrowed money from the banks, and the banks borrowed it from the central banks of the countries that are registered under Crown, and all those countries, which are all corporate entities such as United Kingdom, France, Brazil, you name them, they all borrow their money from the bonds that are held under the birth certificate system, and it's all roots back to the Bank of England.
The Cestui KV Trust.
Cestui KV Trust, quite right. So that's he who lives. Well, your body doesn't live without your soul animating it. So if your soul's here, then it's your soul that lives. So that's the pay for your soul. But your soul has to be nourished through the Mother Earth. So that's where you're getting a differentiation between the heavens are above the earth. So that's Father is the heavens and Mother is the earth. So man is above woman. Sorry if you don't like being sexist, but that's the way it is. But you can't have a third dimensional space without a duality. So you can't have up without down, left without right, and in without out. You can't happen.
Polar opposites.
So you've got God is man. Well, God is the Father. Man is made in the image of God, so that's man. And you've got man masculine and man feminine. And then from the other side of things, you've got source, which is your mother. So you come from source because you come
Mother
from
Nature.
your mother. Yeah, nature, mother nature, and nature nurture, and it's the nature of mother to nurture you. So there's all those word connections to be made.
Things that Kabbalah have tried hard to destroy.
Yeah, but you see, if God creates the heavens first and then the earth, then your mind exists, as in your soul exists, before it enters a body. And then when the body is ready for you, you enter the body. And that's likely done within the womb. And then if you've got, if you're man masculine, you really ought to be sort of manifesting on earth as a male body. And if you're man feminine, a female body. Now there's mix-ups with transgenders and homosexuals and all the rest of it, and folks that swing both ways. Well, that could just be a question of faulty wiring, but who's to tell you what you should and shouldn't enjoy doing or
I can
not
understand
doing?
in some situations
That's a
where there's a
different matter
medical,
altogether.
when there's a medical issue, that it's easy to do one or the other, but
Oh yeah,
otherwise a lot of it's just
yeah.
ideology.
It's all nonsense, you know. Where you want to park your bike's entirely up to you, isn't it? That's as simple as you can
Just
put
don't
it.
need to broadcast it.
You don't need to broadcast it, you know. It's your own business, isn't it?
Hmm.
You know, I mean, I had I had uh, I had grilled crumpets with some cheese on for my lunch because that's what I like. That's
Grilled
it.
what?
Grilled crumpets with
Oh,
cheese on it.
crumpets.
Right.
Oh,
So,
nice.
but you see, that's because that's what I like. If I didn't like eating it, I wouldn't eat it. But nobody's going to sort of go, oh, you know, we need rights for people who like grilled crumpets. I mean, it just becomes nonsense. You know, we don't need special licenses or, you know, laws or rights or anything because somebody parks the bike in a different bloody shed. It doesn't matter, does it? It's but this is how ridiculous it's got through the administrative process being overlaid onto something that's actually fourth dimensional in nature, which is what you like doing anyway.
Well,
Right.
how do you
Anyway,
see
that's
with what you're talking about now, and everything that
you,
you're talking about? How do you see that in relation or correlation to what state the country's in at the moment and things that we're seeing?
well, it's like saying they're
I'm
hell
just
bent on
trying to think
equal.
of a question that doesn't sound boring.
Well, what I'm going to say is that the administrators are hell bent on equality. Now, I understand why we need equality between the sexes. So basically, if there's an opportunity open to males, then it ought to be open to females. I don't have a problem with that. So if you want to drive a car, drive a car. If you don't want to, you don't have to, right? If you want to do a job, then fine, go and do the job. But then you end up with there's certain jobs, and I suppose you might sort of steer them towards what would traditionally be known as a man's job, but it's a job that's more suitable for the male body, where a
A
female body
physical
won't
job.
actually have the physical strength to do it. Now that's a serious thing because you can have a male who's in a wheelchair. Well, you telling me a man in a wheelchair can work as a lumberjack? It's never going to fucking happen.
It
You've
could if
got
he
to be fit and
identified as
strong
an
and healthy.
axe.
Yeah, but you see, so there's nothing stopping a female working as a
Mm.
lumberjack, except that she might struggle with it physically. Because I know big blokes who, struggle physically working as lumberjacks. Because I know somebody who's a tree surgeon, and it's a tough, hard
It is.
work job,
Mm.
right? And that's not putting women down, and it's not saying men are better than women. It's just saying that certain physiognomies are better suited. It's as
It's
simple
about
as that.
it's about
Can you imagine
applying
me
things
working in a
which are
fucking
better for you.
nursery?
So again,
Can you imagine me working in a nursery?
fucking hell no.
No, precisely.
You'd need to be sedated first, I think. No, everyone has their qualities. Women are good nurturers. You know, they're good at doing
Well,
certain things. Blokes are
precisely.
good. You play people at their best cards.
But you see, here's the thing. What I would say is in this realm, the strongest is the weak. So if you have a strength in life, whether it's etheric or physical, then you've got to play to that strength, whatever it is. So if you're like 6'6" and full of muscles, you're going to make a good lumberjack, right? But there's nothing actually, if you've got a nurturing disposition, stopping you working in a nursery.
Mm,
Simple as that.
yeah.
Because there's plenty of lovely, kind, gentle fellas who are grand with kids. It doesn't mean to say they should have to work as a lumberjack. So what? But that's just, it gets, again, it gets too bogged down. I think equality has to be seen through an asymmetric lens. if that makes sense. So
Well, I
we
think like
need
everything though,
we
like
need an asymmetry of equality. Whereas if you want to do something, the opportunity's there, so long as you're able to do it, and so long as you're proficient. Now, if you're doing it just for yourself, it doesn't matter. But if you're going to do it as a job, you need to actually be up to the task. Simple as.
yeah. But some of what we call equality is, I would say, invert racism. Like, oh, we want to hire so many police, but not white. They were turning white people away because it's about the diversity. And so, yes, there's this cry for equalism, but it's usually at the cost of someone else. It's not usually an equal. It's normally, instead of pulling somebody up,
Well,
it's usually
I
knocking
mean,
someone else down.
there's there's part of the work I've been doing, which I think there's certain elements of certain institutions have been constructed in such a way they attract all the bastards so that they all go and actually work for the police. So they know where they all are. I'm not being funny. When I walk around in my general life, most people have a smile and they're cheery and they're helpful and they're pleased to see you and they don't cause you any trouble. The only trouble I've had in my life has been with twats wearing fancy dress outfits who think they can order you about, right? So have a think about that one, folks. So therefore, if the authorities are allowing the police to behave as criminals and get away with it, where are the criminals going to go? Why would you want to be a real criminal when you can get a fancy dress outfit and get paid for doing it? And then the stupid bastards video themselves committing themselves crimes. So if they are working for a merchant corporation registered under Donald Bradstreet, under the jurisdiction of Donald Trump, the police all work for Donald Trump. And they're all recording themselves committing merchant vessel crimes against Royal Naval vessels. Tell me, who's Lord High Admiral of the Royal Navy? Because it's the same fella who's the governor of the Church of England. And the same fella who's Lord Liege of the City of London.
Okay, I don't know.
It was Charlie Boy, you twit.
Oh, is it? Oh, of course
Yeah,
it
of
is. Yeah,
course it
sorry.
is.
So
Yeah,
I
of
was,
course
I
it
was,
is.
I was still thinking America because you'd mentioned
Right,
Trump. I
so
was still in the.
if we have four corners of the earth, we have church, Charlie Boy, Admiralty, Charlie Boy, yeah, administration, Charlie Boy, merchant, Donald Trump. What happens to the merchants of the earth? They will weep and wail. Right? It says so in the Bible. Go and read it. Very interesting book. Right. The reason for central banking is so that the birth certificates to provide the funds for our trust that are provided by our fathers, both God in heaven and his representative on earth, the King of England, is so that all things upon earth may be given a price and so that all things may be accounted for and placed under title as appropriate, which is what I've been talking about. All things are the property of God, and the title shows who has purchase upon them, because purchase means to hold on to, right? And it is not the property of the administrators, which makes the police, the councils, and all other Roman administrative entities guilty of the most appalling crimes, including murder, so they are in quite some trouble with God, as I see it, right? There you go. So if you consider how the title system works and who does the title belong to? All titles belong to the king. So if all titles belong to Charlie Boy, who is Rex, the head of the administration, then when he dies, then who is then head of the administration? Because we are all his children on paper. Does that make sense? Because as the church father, as in the governor, supreme governor of the Church of England, then he is responsible for seeing to it that God's property is apportioned correctly between all the children. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So
when do you see anything happening?
It's I can see it happening now. It's all unraveling for them.
But like in a positive, we can live again a little bit better.
Well,
when do you see that timeline?
Here's the thing, right? Where's the old tarot cards gone?
People need a little bit of optimism, and I've always tried to be optimistic.
Let's far. Okay. Oh, they're all out of order. Doesn't matter. If you look at tarot cards, they have the tower and it's falling down. Well, the reason the tower has to come down is because if you've got a building plot on a piece of land and there's already a building on it, you've got to knock that building down before you can put another one in its place.
Do you mean build back better?
Well, so that it is. Well, you're not going to build back worse unless you're a fucking idiot.
Well, welcome to 2026.
But here's the thing. So if the institution of state is so corrupted and it doesn't serve its purpose any longer, it has to be replaced. But you can't just stop it and then start another one up. It's got to be phased in and out, hasn't it? It's got to dovetail in. And so whoever's planned what's going on, and if it is planned, I mean, fuck me, it's one hell of a plan. The World Economic Forum has been working out the economic systems of world administration, because economics is just eco is a life system and nomic is numbers. So that's the numbers of life. So you either work out what the numbers of life are, which is the financialization of the world's economy through corporatization. So you know what every patch of land is, who owns what patch of land, where the patches of land are, where you can find the people that own them, who's responsible for this, that, and the other.
Is that what things like these 3 words, these apps, like to know where you are? Is that just
probably, yeah?
All those kind of.
I mean, some of that could be a distraction. I don't know, because you've got to have a map system. You've got to be able to locate things. You've got to know whose they are, why they're there. Are these structures safe? I mean, if you just go down the road, I mean, you're going to sooner or later come across a bridge. Well, who's responsible for maintaining the bridge? Who's responsible for paying for the maintenance of the bridge? Who designed the bridge? Is the bridge in good order? If the bridge isn't in good order, who makes the decision to replace the bridge? That's just one bridge. There's bridges all over the bloody place. And that falls to your local council. So there's got to be, like, say, the roads or the railway authorities who these bridges belong to, or even the sort of waterways authorities that look at just bridges. And that's their job. That's what they're paid to do. So if they say, well, the traffic over this bridge is such that it's going to collapse, well, we're going to have to put a bigger bridge in, or reduce the traffic, put a weight limit on the bridge, or close the road, or do whatever. But it's all going to be done for a reason. They can't just
some kind of committee.
Yeah, but the governance systems have to be put in place. Well, that's administrative government. Well, where are they going to get the money from? Well, if you're living in Thetford and the bridge is in Thetford, well, that has to come from Thetford Council. But is there enough money in Thetford itself to be able to pay for that bridge? Or does it have to come from central government funds?
Well, in Thetford, it would come from Breckland, which would be a bigger.
But then you see, that should then come from the Highways Agency, which is an agency of central government. So that's UK government agency. Well, who's in charge of UK government? So you've got to get your layers of responsibility. I mean, if they just come round and say, "Yeah, Chris, here's a bill for this bridge," and you say, "Well, I haven't got £2.5 million," and they'll say, "Oh, well, it's your name on the top of the form, so you're going to have to pay it," that'd be ridiculous. But if you consider all the cumulative bonds that are held by the City of London, if we all put a few pence each in, and there's 67 million of us, well, yeah, that'll buy a bridge.
Yeah. Sorry, you said 6-7. Oh dear, that's ridiculous. I don't even know where that originated from. Yeah, but yeah, those numbers are shocking.
Well, it's just numbers. It just accounts for the material. That's all it is. That's all it is. Just the material. It's a question of who owns the bridge, who's going to demolish the bridge, how they're going to do it, where's the materials for the new ones coming from, where's the materials from the old one going to be placed, how they're going to dispose of it, is there any scrap, is it going to be recycled, is it just going to be chucked in a hole, or do we just leave it lying around? But there's regulations, civil statutes that govern all that, how it's going to be done, why it's going to be done, where the funding's coming from. So if we have a really tight administrative system worked out through central computing systems, which would likely be done using artificial intelligence, then that can be done almost instantaneously and give full audit trail traceability to where everything's come from and going to and who was involved and what they did and why they did it. And we'll also stop embezzlement of funds, such as sending out council tax due through, envelopes with windows in them. Because all these envelopes have windows in them, there's nothing written on the envelope. It's all written on the secret piece of paper inside that's not so secret. So that's another crime, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sending out bloody envelope windows is a crime, as far as I'm concerned.
I thought they called it tombstone something. I can't remember.
Well,
I think I did a video on it ages ago.
That address is your private address because it's registered under the name of the king. What's the name of the king? The king is the name of the father on the birth certificate, which is your name. So all property is registered under the name of the king. So that's one of the king's vessels. His royal flagship vessel is the body you're sitting in. So that's the flagship of the Royal Navy. And everything else is the king's property. But the public stuff is commercial, whereas the royal stuff is private. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So there you're getting the blurring of public and private.
Or, as we like to say, it's either private or non-private.
Well,
Public is like slave, isn't it? Slave world.
Well, no. The Latin verb publicare means to steal, right? Latin dictionary, go and look it up. Doesn't tell you on Google. Funnily enough, they filtered that out. But if you suffer a privation, right, what happens to you?
If you suffer a what?
A privation.
Privation. I don't know. I've never heard of that word. Privation.
Privation. If you suffer a privation, it means something's been removed.
Okay, I've never heard that.
What did they remove when you died? Your placenta. They stole it, publicare, to steal. So public funds are derived from the placenta. Does that make sense to you now? So we suffer a privation on the day we arrive here physically. They steal our placenta, which is part of our body. They steal our land, our air, and our water, which is what they've done because it's your lungs, your heart, and your stomach. And then they basically sell it back to us, which is second theft. And that's how they enslave us through that system. So the birth certificate system is very good, except that it has been malevolently maladministered. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
You're looking even more confused than usual.
No, well, because I remember having a conversation ages ago with Graham Moore, and he wasn't against the birth certificate because he said, we need to know how many people are alive, how many people are dying. That's good to have those kind of numbers. It's the way that, like you say, they've bastardized it, basically.
They've found a way round administering it correctly and lining their own pockets with the embezzled proceeds. And Graham's quite right. You need to know. I mean, you need to know how many people are in a country because the administrators of that country have to see that those people are safe. Well, you need to have a road system that supports, a sewage system that supports. We need to supply enough electricity and it doesn't go out because there's too many people who switch the kettle on at once. So knowing the population of the areas that are administrated under the administrations is a good thing because they need to know that there's, 1.5 million people live in Greater Manchester, for instance. Because if they didn't, how the hell are you going to work out domestic sort of electricity supply? They need to know where all the factories are and how much their energy requirements are. Because you need to assemble a power grid.
Yeah.
So
I totally get that, but then it all falls flat when we keep importing third world people and we don't know who they are or how many there are, and so then we're still going like this.
Well, to be fair, if the administration can keep up with that, that shows that we've got a robust administrative system that can cater with it. Because if this is God's earth and we're all God's children, we've all got as much right to be anywhere we like, anytime we like. And people can't get their heads around that, because otherwise you seem to think that you're one of the administrators. I just happen to live where I live because I like living here. If I want to go and move somewhere else, it should be up to me, not up to some administrator
Yeah, I
saying,
know
"Oh no,
that,
you
but
can't,
let's
you can't
let
go and live in France because you haven't got the right piece of paper." Well, if it's all under one system, you can go and live wherever you bloody well want.
yeah,
If
and
the bit of
in
the earth's
those
called Azerbaijan, go and fucking live there if you want
but if
to.
you're somebody who's got tendencies to go rape people, then I don't want you here. Then you don't have a right.
You don't want them
If if,
anywhere, do
if you're
you?
if you're going to be a fucking animal, then no, I don't want you here.
Yeah, but that's a different matter altogether. That is actually that's the mergence of two arguments, which is what these fucking bastard administrators have been doing to us the other way about.
Mm.
I knew plenty of people when I lived in Greater Manchester that had come from all over the world, and basically they're fleeing wars. They didn't want to be
Mm.
there. You know, there's loads of Ukrainians in the UK at the moment. Yeah, why have they left Ukraine? Because otherwise they get forced into an army and then blown up. Either the Russians kill them or they get killed by their own side. So you can whinge all you like. Well, you wouldn't like it if it was the other bloody way about, would you?
Yeah, but most of these bastards coming over aren't war torn at all. They've gone past about 3 or 4 safe fucking countries just to get to this one. So that argument doesn't stand.
Well, actually, it does, because you've got to look at what Europe is and who governs Europe. Europe's the bigger part of the problem.
Yeah,
If you
run
actually
by
look at it,
unelected bureaucrats.
quite right. We don't have
Mm.
unelected bureaucrats. You see, people go on about democracy and what democracy is. Democracy comes from the Greek word demos, which is people. So democracy is the power of the people. Well, unelected bureaucrats is not power of the people. So when Europe tells you that it's a democracy, they are fucking liars. They are the single worst Roman administrative set of cunts on the face of this earth, right? That's not a joke. So
I think the
the sooner
European Union,
Europe's destroyed, the better.
Europe is just the new word for the British Empire. I think it just had a
Yeah,
name
you're right.
change, a rebrand.
It's the re-establishment of the Holy Roman Empire. But then, if you get into flag protocols, if you want to look up the merchant flag of the House of Hanover, which is German, we're back to that word Germain, right? Servant or brotherhood. So they're either Freemasons or servants. Which ones are they? They can't be both, right? It looks just like the red ensign, right? And the British flag is of the House of Hanover. So the British flag is of the Holy Roman Empire. And people can't get their heads around that. Now, Britain was bankrupted and it's been changed into the United Kingdom. And that's the United Kingdom of heaven and earth, which is a constitutional monarchy. Now, constitutional monarchy means the administration follows the orders of the king. Who's the king? Well, if the king is Christ in heaven, as in you, I, and everybody watching this is in the higher mind, then we are all Christ the king. Under our Father, which is God, the creator, well, ultimate creator of everything. But again, you've got to understand the spiritual dimension of the discussion I'm trying to put forward here. And most people will just say, Black's Law Dictionary says. Well, Black's Law Dictionary is a dictionary that offers terms and advice on how to do administrative law, in the same way a Haynes manual tells you how to service your car or motorbike. That's all it is, right? There's nothing spiritual about it. These are the instructions. This is what you do. You start at point 1 and you end at point 10, completion, right? And you follow it in order. These are the torque ratings, and these are what spark plugs you use, and this is the oil that you use, and da 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 da. That's what you do. This is your antifreeze mix. This is your fuel you run it on, right? It's an administrative document. It's a manual to tell you how to do what you're supposed to be doing. It's not telling you how to live your life as a man on Earth, because your Earth is your body, because it's made of the constituent elements of Mother Earth. Your earth is your land, and your land is England, because that's where the angel lands. It lands in your pineal gland, and it's focused through the crown chakra, which incidentally, for all you nitwits who don't like Saturn, is governed by Saturn. So that's Saturnalian control, right? Your body's under Jupiterian control and your mind is under Saturnalian control. And if we get Saturnalian control of Crown, then we're sorted. It gets rid of the Jupiterians.
Okay. I don't know anything about that kind of stuff. But
keep talking to me, Chris. We'll get you there.
We'll get there eventually, mate. I'm fairly sure of it. Is there anything that you would like to round up on, my friend?
No, I pontificated enough, haven't I?
Okay, then. I'm sure there's fucking plenty more in there. What do you do to relax?
What's
apart
relax?
From, I guess your trains behind you is one.
I got my model railways when I'm in the mood for that. Oh, I do all sorts of stuff. Just wander about in the countryside and take the dog for a walk.
Do you meditate?
No. I drink tea and look out the window, if that counts.
Well, I think it probably does to a certain extent, you know.
Of course it does. With tea, you can fix anything.
See, I used to drink lots of tea, but now I'm more of a coffee drinker.
No, I go to sleep. That helps. I have a good kip, and I do sleep like I'm dead, so I'm quite good at that. See,
That's
interestingly, I was talking with Larry Cypress, and we were talking about sleeping.
Shout out to Larry.
Hey, yeah, and we were having a bit of a chuckle between us, as if so. Well, when you're awake, are you actually asleep to your own mind? And when you're asleep physically, are you more awake to your own fifth dimensional self? Because if you think about the nature of dreams, you can go anywhere and do anything in dreams that you can't do in the physical realm. So when you're physically asleep, are you actually mentally awake? As in mental being the mind?
It's one of those questions, isn't it?
Then, yeah, that's
are you going off? Are you going off into spirit land?
Yeah, dream world. Yeah, which is where
merrily,
we came
merrily,
from.
merrily, merrily. Life is but a dream. Listen, nice one. I've really enjoyed our chat.
Yeah,
and I look forward to talking with you rather, in June with my friend Ruth, who's very much looking forward. She'll be sat here or here somewhere. Yeah, she'll be somewhere. But no, she just wants to pick your brains.
No, Christopher, you haven't been listening. She'll be seated in heaven with Christ, because she is Christ. Thank you. Right. But her body will be sat on your physical lower third dimensional chair.
Yes.
This is where we've got to get our minds working. Because, like I say, if we've been fooled into thinking we're bits of paper and entitled documents, then they just sort of stamp all over us with their rubber stamps. It's how mad the world is.
No, you're right.
Until this crazy nonsense is unwound and sorted out, and all the bastards, criminals who've been perverting the system are got rid of, then I think sometime the end of this year things are going to get a bit worse, and then I think we're going to be all right about it. But I remember talking
worse
a while
how?
ago. Well, just more mad. I mean, the shit show that
depression, poverty.
Oppression's probably going to get worse. Although I think there's limits to what they can actually get away with in this country, and I think they might step across a few lines, and some poor unfortunate bastards might cop for it. But then I think once that happens, I think the bastards that have implemented it are going to be in serious, serious trouble. Like I say, any corporate entity that's registered at Dun & Bradstreet effectively works for Donald Trump. So that doesn't matter whether it's Tesco's, your local council, the fire brigade, they all actually technically work for Donald Trump.
On that lovely note, cheers, Colin. I wish you every success, and I look forward to seeing you in June.
Righto. See you,
nice
folks.
one.